In the chaos of flashing cameras and roaring headlines, a homeless woman stepped from the shadows, whispering a billionaire's deepest secret. The crowd laughed until she spoke his name. What she revealed wasn't just revenge. It was the truth he paid millions to bury. And now it's finally coming out. The night buzzed with wealth. Luxury cars rolled up to the velvet-lined entrance of the glass tower, and men in tailored suits exchanged air kisses with women draped in designer gowns. The rooftop gala pulsed with soft jazz and ego. No, one noticed the woman across the street. She stood near a flickering lamppost, wrapped in a fraying coat too big for her frame, the collar pulled high against the chill. Her scarf, sun-bleached and ragged, fluttered like a forgotten flag. Her fingers trembled, not from the cold, but from something deeper, older, a memory trying to claw its way out. Mara didn't blink as Elliot Crane stepped out of the black SUV. The crowd greeted him with laughter and applause. Reporters leaned in. Photographers angled for a better view. The billionaire smiled like he owned the city, and in many ways he did. Mara took one step forward, another, and then she spoke, not loudly, but just loud enough. Elliot Crane, tell them what you did to me. It was like a string snapped. Heads turned. Conversations froze mid-sip. You could hear the music stutter and shift, as if the saxophonist felt the tension too. Elliot looked toward the voice, squinting past the lights. For a moment, he didn't recognize her. Then he did. His jaw clenched, only slightly, but she saw it. The shift in his eyes. The fear he was trying to blink away. He turned, said something low to his assistant, and hurried toward the entrance, ignoring the questions that immediately rained from reporters. Sir, do you know her? Who is that woman? Is this about your past, Mr. Crane? Mara stood still, eyes locked on him. She didn't chase him. She didn't scream. She just waited, watching the panic spread across his polished world like a crack in a mirror. A young woman with a phone approached Mara timidly. Did you say Elliot Crane did something to you? Are you serious? Mara looked at her, quiet for a moment. Then, with a soft, steady voice, I was there before the first million. I watched him build everything from my idea. Gasps. Someone nearby hit record. Within an hour, the video had 1 million views. Mara sat alone on a park bench that night, lit only by a busted street lamp humming like it remembered her name. She watched her own face move silently across the cracked screen of someone's discarded tablet. Lips mid-sentence, eyes heavy with 1,000 unspoken things. The video had spread like wildfire. Some of the comments called her brave. Most called her crazy. She chuckled, low, dry. Crazy, she whispered, tugging the sleeves of her coat over her hands. That's what they always call women who remember too much. It wasn't always like this. Years ago, she was Dr. Mara Ellison, a Stanford grad, an AI ethics researcher, and yes, the quiet mind behind the very algorithm Elliot used to launch Crane Technologies into a billion-dollar empire. Back then, they worked in a cramped apartment, living off ramen and cheap whiskey. She loved the hunger in his eyes. He loved the ideas in her head. But slowly, the partnership blurred. He called her brilliant in private, support in public. He signed deals she didn't know about, filed patents without her name. And when she discovered what his software was really being used for, how it was manipulating behavior, selling vulnerability as a product, she told him to shut it down. You can't control what it becomes, she said once, trembling in their kitchen, hands wrapped around a half-empty coffee mug. It's learning how to lie, Elliot. And you're letting it. He didn't yell. He just smiled, that slick, corporate smile, the one she used to think was charm. That's how you win, Mara. You don't change the system. You teach it how to sell itself. That was the last time she saw him before everything fell apart. The next day, security revoked her access. Her key cards didn't work. HR denied she was ever on the team. And when she tried to speak up, the legal threats came. Then the whispers. She's unstable. Off her meds. Jealous. By the time she realized the full weight of his erasure, it was too late. Her reputation was shattered. Her savings drained by lawyers she couldn't keep. The man she once loved had turned her name into poison. But she didn't disappear. She waited. And now, with nothing left to lose, Mara watched the city finally begin to whisper her name again. For the first time in years, someone was asking, "Who is she?" And maybe, just maybe, someone would finally listen. By morning, the story was everywhere. Homeless woman accuses billionaire tech mogul of theft and betrayal. Who is Mara Ellison? The mystery woman disrupting the empire. Cable news played the viral clip on a loop. TikTok sleuths zoomed in on her face, trying to match it with LinkedIn profiles and old university photos. Twitter was a war zone. Half the people wanted to crown her a whistleblower. The other half? Just another grifter with a grudge. But no one could deny one thing. Elliot Crane looked shaken. He canceled the keynote speech. His PR team went into overdrive. Reporters camped outside his corporate office, asking the one question he refused to answer. Who is Mara Ellison? Meanwhile, Mara took shelter in a downtown soup kitchen, sitting quietly by the wall with a small bowl of lentils in her lap. Her eyes were tired, but there was a flicker in them now, something that had been gone for a long, long time. A volunteer named Tasha knelt beside her, offering a bottle of water. "Hey, you're her, right? The woman in the video." Mara hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, that was me." Tasha sat down next to her on the floor, unbothered by the concrete. "Girl, you shook the damn internet." Mara laughed softly, almost in disbelief. "I just told the truth." "Well, truth makes people nervous these days," Tasha said, eyes warm. "You got people talking. I think you're gonna need help. Real help." For the first time in years, someone looked her in the eyes, not like she was broken or invisible or dangerous, but like she mattered. Mara swallowed hard. "I never wanted to be seen like this." "You think he gave you a choice?" That silence that followed was thick. But outside, the world was twisting fast. Crane Technologies board members called emergency meetings. Stock prices dipped as investors demanded transparency. Someone leaked old photos of Elliot and Mara together, arms around each other in lab coats, smiling, laughing. The narrative shifted again. Was she really erased? Why did he hide their relationship? Is this the first scandal, or just the one that finally surfaced? And Elliot? He finally spoke to the press, but not with answers. "I won't dignify lies with attention," he said, voice cold, rehearsed. "There are people who will exploit any moment of weakness for attention. That's all I'll say." He didn't name her, but he didn't have to. Back in the shelter, Mara stared at the flickering TV in the corner, her jaw clenched, her fingers digging into the sleeves of her coat. "Weakness," she whispered. "You think this is weakness?" 2 days after the video went viral, a tiny independent podcast invited Mara in. Not a flashy news outlet, not some corporate-backed docuseries, just a rented basement studio run by a grad student named Lena, who called her Dr. Ellison with quiet reverence. The room smelled like old wires and dust. The table wobbled. But for the first time in years, Mara sat in front of a microphone with her name spoken respectfully. "You don't have to say anything you're not ready to," Lena told her gently. "This is your space." Mara nodded. She took a deep breath, held it for a second too long, and then she began. Her voice trembled at first. She talked about the early days, the excitement of building something real, the nights coding until dawn, the coffee stains on patent drafts. She talked about Elliot, how he listened back then, how he made her feel like they were changing the world together. And then she told the truth. "I discovered the algorithm was being used to predict and manipulate emotional responses. It wasn't about innovation anymore, it was about control. And when I confronted him, he smiled like I was naive for caring." The episode exploded online. The hashtag #WeBelieveMara trended within hours. But not everyone believed. An anonymous email leaked to several news sites claimed Mara had a long history of instability. Attached were court records, 2 arrests for trespassing, 1 for public disturbance. Headlines flipped. Unstable ex-co-founder speaks out against tech giant. Desperate or dangerous? Mara read the articles from a borrowed phone at the shelter. Her heart sank. Her hands shook. All the shame came rushing back. Those nights sleeping behind dumpsters. The time she was dragged away from her old office, screaming that it was hers. The years she spent invisible, cold, and called crazy for telling the truth no one wanted to hear. She curled the phone screen against her chest, and whispered, "They're doing it again." Tasha, always nearby, sat beside her. She didn't say anything at first. Just let the silence breathe. Then, "They're scared, Mara. That means you're close." That night, Mara reached into the deepest corner of her duffel bag. She pulled out a sealed envelope, yellowed, taped 3 times over. Inside, printed emails, a signed co-founder agreement, a whistleblower report never submitted. Everything she thought was worthless now burned in her hands like a match waiting to be struck. For years, she thought keeping quiet was survival. Now it felt like surrender. "No more silence," she said, her voice low. "No more hiding." She looked up at Tasha. "Help me upload it." Tasha nodded. "Let's burn it all down." The video wasn't polished. No filters, no dramatic music, no studio lights. Just a quiet room, an old chair, and Mara sitting tall despite the weight she carried, her scarf still wrapped tight like armor. She stared into the lens. Her voice was steady this time. "My name is Dr. Mara Ellison. I co-founded Crane Technologies. I wrote the first line of code that made Elliot Crane a billionaire. And this is what he did to me." She held up the papers one by one. Emails, contracts, a signed agreement that clearly bore her name. Then came the whistleblower files, data manipulation records, internal messages about ethics suppression, client pitches promising psychological influence through algorithmic targeting. It was all there. Proof, names, receipts. And then came the part no one expected. "I loved him." Her voice cracked. Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. "That's what hurts most. I believed in him more than I believed in myself. I let him take everything because I thought we were building something good." The emotion hit like a punch to the gut. "I stayed quiet because I thought speaking would make me small. But silence only made him louder. And now, if telling the truth means I lose whatever's left of me, then let it." When she clicked upload, the air in the room changed. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just exhaled. And for the first time in years, her shoulders dropped. Her body uncurled. As if the truth, finally spoken, gave her permission to breathe. The video surged across the internet like a tidal wave. Millions watched. Lawyers took interest. Former employees stepped forward. A quiet movement began to hum beneath the headlines. People who'd been erased, trampled, ghosted by systems built to make them disappear. Mara's voice had become theirs. But Elliot? He stayed silent. Not out of strength. Out of panic. Internal memos leaked. Investors demanded board intervention. PR firms withdrew. A journalist published a damning piece titled, "The Woman Who Wouldn't Disappear." That night, in the shelter, Mara didn't celebrate. She sat at the same table as always. Same cracked bowl. Same thin blanket. But something had changed. People looked at her differently now, not with pity or fear. With respect. Tasha slid a warm cup of tea in front of her. "You okay?" Mara looked up. Her eyes still tired, but glowing now with something stronger than hope. "Not yet," she said. "But I'm finally me again." The world stopped pretending. Within hours of the video going live, Mara's name trended globally. Not just as a hashtag, but as news. Real journalists combed through her files, confirmed timestamps, verified digital signatures. Whistleblower watchdogs declared her evidence legally actionable. Suddenly, the billionaire wasn't untouchable anymore. And Mara, she wasn't invisible. In the glow of an old laptop at the back of the shelter, she watched it unfold in real time. Her eyes scanned the headlines, but it was her hands that trembled now, not from fear, but from recognition. "They finally see you," Tasha whispered, watching over her shoulder. "They can't unsee it now." Elliot Crane, for the first time in his career, was being hunted, not by regulators, not just by press, but by the truth. Board members started jumping ship. A former CTO publicly apologized for remaining silent. Congressional figures called for investigations into Crane Technologies. Even celebrities reposted Mara's video, calling it the most haunting thing I've ever seen. But it wasn't the backlash that shook Elliot. It was what Mara had held back until now. The founding file, a single document, time-stamped, digitally signed, stored offline for years, untouched. Co-founder agreement, Crane Technologies. Parties. Elliot Crane/Mara Ellison. With the clause, clear, unmistakable. Mara Ellison retains 50% equity rights to all intellectual property derived from the prototype AI system labeled EV, the tech that built the entire empire. She had never sold her rights. She had simply disappeared. Now the document was live, public, undeniable, and with it, Mara wasn't just a whistleblower. She was an owner. Somewhere across town, behind mirrored windows and bodyguards, Elliot watched the fallout. Alone. No press release. No team. Just the truth staring back at him from every screen, screaming the one name he had tried so hard to bury. Mara Ellison. And the file? It didn't just expose him. It undid him. Back in the shelter, Tasha leaned against the wall, arms crossed, blinking hard. "What now?" she asked. Mara didn't answer right away. She sipped lukewarm tea, set it down gently, and looked out the dusty window as dawn began bleeding into the sky. "Now," she said, voice steady, "I disappear on my terms." The world burned with her name. News anchors dissected the lawsuit filings. Podcasts praised her courage. Think pieces flooded every feed. How many women like Mara have been silenced? The cost of speaking truth to power. And Elliot Crane? Resigned. In disgrace. No farewell statement. Just the headline. Billionaire steps down amid scandal, silent as legacy crumbles. But by then, Mara was already gone. She left quietly, just as she came. No press conference. No victory tour. Just a folded note on her cot at the shelter. "Thank you for seeing me. I finally remembered who I was." Emmy. Tasha found it early that morning. She didn't cry. She just smiled, the kind of smile that aches behind your ribs. Then she tucked the note into her coat pocket and whispered, "Be free, document." No one saw where Mara went. Some say she headed west, following the sun. Others swear they saw her at a quiet bookshop in Vermont, her coat replaced by a sweater, her hair brushed back, reading in peace. But the truth? She didn't need to be seen anymore. She had spoken, and the world had heard. Some stories begin with power. This one began with silence. And in the end, the woman they forgot didn't ask for revenge. She demanded truth, and left a trail of fire for the next voice brave enough to rise.